Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick-and-mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I'm passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love, because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you are meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. I loved when you dropped that favorite self mention at our friend Lauren's event a couple months ago. So let's talk about Carly's favorite self.
Yeah. I think my favorite self is very inspired by my inner child. You know, the person that you were before the world told you who to be. And to me, that's also like, yes, my younger child, but also like my teenage rebellious side that just knew how to have a good time and felt so alive and didn't feel like held back by, you know, how something would be perceived or having to, you know, get it perfect and all these external pressures that we feel either from society or from our upbringing or that we just put on ourselves. So kind of who are you as that like really uninhibited version of yourself that feels most authentic to you and most alive? I really like to think of it that way.
What makes you feel really alive right now?
Oh, definitely being very creative. So that's why like often in the kind of creative writing process, I feel very alive in my purpose through that and knowing kind of, you know, that I'm having an impact on other people. And then I think I've been very surprised in just like how alive I felt in motherhood, and my kids are, you know, there's always just that refreshing perspective of being around kids, whether it's your kids or any kids, and just being able to see the world the way that they see it, like they're seeing everything for the first time. And my kids have just taught me so much about romanticizing life too, and just seeing the beauty in everything. And, you know, I'm like in my midlife crazy bird lady era. So I love learning about bird species are fascinating, Ali, let me tell you.
It's too bad because we once gave my grandma, rest in peace, a bird clock.
Oh my God.
Which I'm so sorry I don't have it here today to give it to you.
Yeah.
Every hour was a different bird sound.
That's so cool.
Very cool, right? Are you kind of
one
jealous?
thing that like, if you haven't paid attention, you'll just be like, oh, just like it's any, you know, you think it's any bird, like, but there's actually so many different types of birds, and I'm like always watching and paying attention, and I like to look up like the signs of things, and so I found a lot of kind of spiritual connection with birds. I write about that in the book. The swan was one story I shared, but there's a big meaning behind the blue heron for me. So anyway, and it's just like, that is actually what became the ritual. That's why we saw the swans. Like my husband and I would like sit out on the deck and just listen to the birds in our house, because we have this house that we built on our dream lot with these beautiful maple trees. And I'm fascinated by how many birds we get like migrating through. I swear we're like a hot spot. So it's become this like little kind of hobby. And now my kids are into it. And so, and like, my husband and I joke a lot too that, you know, when our kids are, when we're somewhere with them and then they just like stop whatever they're playing and everyone that's around, they're like, look at the airplane. And they like watch the airplane go by in the sky. And, you know, they'll point out the specific bird. And I'm just like, I love that. I love that they pay attention to these things. Like, I mean, airplanes fly by all the time, but how freaking cool.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I just love to think of like, where are these people going? Like, that's my Harriet the Spy version. Like, you know, I love people watching and like, what's the story behind all of it? So yeah, I think there's just that romanticized kind of version that really makes me feel like connected and alive, and I feel like those signs are all around you if you're looking for them and paying attention.
I love that you said this, because Matt and I were at an event last year with Christina Bartold as well, actually. And there was this gentleman, his name's David Norrie, and he's now like keynote speaker, travels around, and he really spoke about the art of connection, but by being open to it. And the one specific example he used was when you're at the airport or maybe even at a Starbucks waiting in line for your coffee. What is the average person doing?
Looking at their phone.
And so they are all missing this opportunity for connection.
Yeah.
And it was the most impactful thing that he said. And Matt and I we attended this event together, and we talked about it. We talk about it regularly, how like, what a great point that he shared. And I've really tried to take that and take action on it. And I understand, especially like entrepreneurs, moms, families, like there are times where you walking from your car to Starbucks might be the only time that you get to be on your phone, especially if you're driving by yourself. Can't be on your phone. So you might need that time to check in on something.
Right.
But how special would it be if we can just put our head up, shoulders down and back, good posture, and being open to the world, to connections? Do you see someone that you know? Is it an opportunity for a new connection?
Yeah. I love, there's like those little videos of, you know, the comparison of like when you're looking at your phone versus when you're paying attention and what you're missing. And I think I agree. Like, I mean, I'm so grateful for everything that we are able to do, build through a phone and having this connection. Like my whole business is in that space, and I wouldn't have the business I had if it weren't for that opportunity. Like we've had those conversations too of like, what if the internet was gone tomorrow? You know, like think of all the things. Like my husband was asking me that. I'm like, oh, I would just write books. And he's like, how would you publish it and sell it to people? I'm like, true, good point.
Like get a typewriter.
Yeah.
And then I'd go to every bookstore.
I'd live my Love Actually best life. So yeah, I think it's so important to really remember that and actually get out of that bubble that we can kind of get in and make sure that we are still making the time to live in real life, in the present moment, you know, without always thinking about what's next on the to-do list or on your schedule, and just enjoying like presence. It's so simple, but just being present is, I think, you know, something that we all need to tap into more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I would agree. And I know that's something that I always have room for improvement on. And one thing that I kind of on the notion of presence is, it kind of leads me into the world of community that I think we just both appreciate, even though we have an introvert energy.
Yeah.
But the power of community and connection, and that in real life experiences, in real life connection, that, well, even this here right now, you and I always knew we wanted to do a podcast together, but I'm like, I don't want to do it via like Riverside or Zoom. I want to do it together in person. And thank gosh we waited, because look at all the amazing, exciting things that we get to talk about. But even just the idea of being in rooms and being in community. How has that impacted you from a business standpoint, from launching a book?
Yeah.
And just as a female entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh. It's been everything. Like to me, I've always been driven by community. That's why I loved starting my business in the marketing world. Like it was always about meaningful connection and building community. And, you know, it can feel so isolating in entrepreneurship, in motherhood, and having this connection through like my phone, through, you know, social media has let me build these relationships that I never otherwise would have been able to build, and that, you know, my parents, their generation of raising us, like wouldn't have had access to. It's been so crucial in like so many ways. One is like my community as expanders, and seeing these other women, especially, who are doing things that I want to do or I feel called to do, and seeing how it's possible, and them paving the way, and then me being able to be like, okay, if she did that, I can do that too. And then there's the other side of getting to do it together and supporting each other. I've been blown away by my community in this last year with the book, and just the way that my people have been there for me and lifted me up on those days where I'm like, never mind, actually, I am just kidding. I'm not going to publish this book. I'm going to hide it somewhere, and you know, it's never going to see the light of day. And my community has been those mirrors for me, and reflecting back the power of my story, and also vulnerability and what happens when you put yourself out there, and just like the reciprocal nature of investing in these relationships. It's like, it truly is so magical, and like, yeah, why would we want to do it all alone when we can do it surrounded by so much power?
Was there a point in even just like the last few years when you really started to invest your time, energy, money of getting into rooms and attending events?
Yeah, I would say I hit a turning point kind of crawling out of the pandemic and early postpartum, when my kids were really young, and like that was so isolating. I had no village, you know, daycare was closed. So I had to a 2-year-old and a baby at home, and I had to kind of hibernate and just like get through the day in that season. And then as I started coming up for air, I realized I'm like, oh, I've really not had the capacity to invest in my relationships the way that I did before. And I knew that I needed to really reinvest. And I just felt like I also needed to find kind of my new circle of people too, that were more aligned with where I was going, and it wasn't where I had been. So that did kind of get me into these other rooms and build these relationships that happened so quickly, and have felt like that soul sister kind of feeling like instantly. And, I think like anything, like relationships can be seasonal, but there's also just that like perfect timing of like you're in a similar season, especially with like entrepreneurship and motherhood and all the things, and it just connects, and it's just like, oh, that's such a sweet spot, and it feels so good. So I think it's, it can feel hard to build those relationships in certain seasons, but putting yourselves in those rooms is like so rewarding and fulfilling to, you'll find your people.
I love that you referenced seasons, because that was literally going to be my follow-up question. How that has been for you going through changes in life, motherhood twice.
Yeah.
That would look different if I'm going from 1 to 2, entrepreneurship. Did you and Luke did you start Web of Words together?
No, I started the business, and there was no plan to go in it together.
Okay.
Actually.
So we're gonna put a pin in that,
Yeah.
so we're gonna come back to that.
Yeah, okay.
So even that transition.
Yeah.
How many years have you been married?
How many?
Roughly.
13? 13, I think.
Give or take one? Yeah. 12 to 15.
Around there.
So a lot of life milestones and life transitions. How has that been for you in the world of friendships?
Yeah. Oh, it's been hard. And what's interesting actually is I feel like the book has reignited like some old relationships that I think, had maybe grown a little bit distant because of changes of seasons and different paths. And it also showed me like where other there needed to be kind of a shedding or a letting go process in other relationships that maybe I was clutching onto that weren't actually serving kind of where I was headed, which is always so hard, like kind of grieving that too, and just trusting that there's a reason for that. But yeah, I do feel like my business has really crossed with my personal in so many ways. So I'm at a season where I only have so much capacity, and like going away for business is time away from my kids. So I'm very intentional about that. And so that's my social time too, often. And so a lot of my like closest friends have become business friends because that's like the best of both worlds. Yeah. And they also get it, and they're in it with me. And so, I think just like letting yourself explore that and not feeling like you need to hold on to something that's not fitting the way that it used to, and just trusting that maybe it's just not fitting right now, and it doesn't mean it won't again. Like I actually just reunited with my roommates from university. One of them flew in for my book launch. We hadn't seen each other in years, and it felt like no time had passed, which was so cool. We did a spa day the next day, and like, felt like kind of our early 20 selves again. And if it weren't for our kids literally showing us how much time had passed by, being like, the last time I saw you, your 7-year-old was a baby. Like that's how long it's been. But it felt like no time had passed at all, So I think just remembering that like you can come back to that too and pick up where you left off with the right relationships, and they'll always be there.
I love that. Like my 2 best friends live in 2 completely different countries. We got Australia and the United States. And I actually just had dinner with my like old roommate and best friend from university who lives in LA. She's an incredible jewelry designer. Taylor Swift just wore her jewelry in one of her new music videos, and proud friend moment.
Amazing.
I love bragging about her. But we had this like 4-hour dinner the last time I was in LA, and I remember texting Matt. I was like, that was the best. Mm-hmm. That made me so happy. Like I actually would have loved a sleepover, but wasn't in the cards. But I love those relationships, and I think there's something truly special about those friendships that she and I do not communicate regularly.
Yeah.
We both have businesses. She's got 3 little girls, dogs. Like you have a lot happening, but when you can come back together and connect on, okay, what is going on in your life? Like
yes.
Tell me everything.
Yeah, and I think it's that kind of unconditional love in those relationships where you can feel like you're a totally different person than you were the last time that you were together, and yet you still feel so loved for who you are now, and kind of like there's also a remembering of who you were and what it took to get you to where you are. So I think there's something really sacred about that.
Oh yeah. And I love what you said also about shedding. And I think that topic is growing in popularity and awareness, especially amongst women. And I think then another step, especially among female entrepreneurs, because I think we as women can be so hard on ourselves, being people pleasers and perfectionism tendencies, that you might hold on to these relationships because you don't want them to fail. Mm-hmm. But on the other side of like, are they really making you happy?
Yeah.
And I've gone through a couple years of that where you really, and it is a personal development journey in its own, of feeling okay to shed some of those relationships. And, maybe people will talk, who knows? Like there can be a lot of different elements of that. But I think then going back to your root of really knowing like who you are, what your goals are, where you want to go, and who those people are that are going to support you and that are go into a room that I'm going to go into a room that you're not in. And I can talk about like, oh my gosh, you guys, Carly just launched this amazing book. Like you need to read it. I love what she did. The story behind the cover art, like people that will go and really be cheerleaders for you when you're not in the room.
Absolutely, which is so huge. And yeah, it's being aware of how your energy is when you're with certain people. And okay, do you actually feel really drained from this hangout, or is it something that just like totally filled your cup in a way that you just so needed? And even if it is just sitting together and reading a book, and not even whether it's that or like a deep heart to heart, but being mindful of the way that your body is feeling coming out of these kind of connections as well, it tells you a lot.
I think even environments, and maybe there's like a self-serving part of me that says that because we have a brick and mortar space that is very focused on community and positivity and really truly bettering yourself, because that's a big part of exercise.
Yeah. And
so Benchmark Fitness was born with a vision of inspiring people to be their best version of themselves, in Carly's words, their favorite version of themselves. And also being in community, being positive. And we've certainly had challenges along the 6.5-year lifespan of the business. But Matt and I talk about it so often of, even now, I feel like we're naturally starting to attract a lot of entrepreneurs, because it's like attracts like.
Yes.
And being in environments that make you feel super aligned.
Absolutely.
And happy with yourself.
Totally. Your environment is everything. And I think there's the whole like bloom where you are planted, but at the same time, like be very, very intentional about where you're planting the seeds, because that is what creates something out of nothing, and how are you nurturing that with the environment that you're surrounding yourself in? So sometimes you have more limited option in that than other times, but going out and finding those places where you can find your community is so important, especially in today's age where it feels like we've gotten so far away from that kind of older lifestyle of like when families would live in, the same buildings and your mom would be right there to rock your baby back to sleep or whatever it is. We've gotten so isolated. So it's a really intentional piece of like finding your people, finding your community, building your own village, whether that's at home, at work, in your fitness, in your health, whatever that looks like for you.
Absolutely. Even like we have a coffee shop that we love that's around the corner from this studio and the gym. And I'm actually so proud. Matt and I have sat twice this week and had a coffee in a real cup. And we were just like sat down in the community of the coffee shop. Very busy both times. I was like, why is every seat taken in here? I want to sit down finally.
Yeah.
But slowing down, and mind you, we worked during the coffee, but maybe we graduate to just sitting and staring at each other and having conversation.
And watching the birds out the window.
Okay, going back to, speaking of husbands, going back to you and Luke, and we're going to address that pin that we parked with the web of words transition. Yeah. How that has been of when your husband came into the business.
Yeah.
And how that felt, but now to present day, how you balance, and I love this because this is us too.
Totally.
So I love having these conversations. Right? How you balance your business partnership and your family, home life, love partnership.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, so I had built the business myself. I never had a plan to grow a team or to bring anybody in. It was just like, I want to write for a living and do what I love. And I was finding a way to, get paid to do that basically. And things grew pretty quickly. Within my first 9 months, I had, was back making the same amount that I had been making at my my salary job before. And I was at that kind of turning point that a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to, where it's like, okay, things are going really well and flowing really well, but also I have an opportunity to grow and scale here. You know, which path am I going to choose? Am I going to like continue to stay kind of status quo and be happy where things are? Or am I going to look to create something bigger than me? And it was just a random dinner conversation where my husband wasn't happy in his job. We were just kind of talking. We were at that stage of life, like he had, 2 weeks vacation. He was commuting to the city and getting home late at night, and he'd come home. I would have been home all day by myself, and I'm like, let's go out. I need to do something. And he's like, I just want to crash on the couch. Like, it felt like we were just two ships passing by. We were in just totally different kind of schedules and routines. And so I just like randomly was like, what if you actually joined the business with me? And instead of hiring someone else, I hired you, and you helped me, turn this into something more. And he didn't have any background in social media. He had never even worked from home, let alone for himself. So there was a lot of learning curve there, but he brought so many skills that I didn't have on the HR side, on the operations side. And he had a vision for building more of a team and a business. And so we were able to bring those together, and he really saw parts that I didn't see, that I, hadn't let myself picture yet. So we were kind of able to combine that vision, me with the creative side of things, and him kind of more with the operations side. And there was a lot of lessons we had to learn the hard way in that process. And initially we had to put some hard boundaries in place and be like, okay, like we don't talk about business, after this time, and we don't bring business into the bedroom. And like we have date night where we don't talk about work. That's changed a lot now, again, like going with the flow, and those boundaries have become much more fluid because often our alone time is our only time to have these conversations. So just like giving space for it to evolve and for us to find our way and find our roles. We have very different roles in the business. Like we kind of always say that he's the web and I'm the words.
Oh,
so
I love that.
he does a lot more on the design side of the business, and I'm more on the messaging kind of side of how we work with our clients. And then, same with like, I'm like that kind of visionary. I say like I start the fire and he keeps it going behind the scenes, and he's happy behind the scenes. I'm trying to pull him out from behind the scenes.
It is possible.
Yeah.
We are in that phase right now where Mataruda is coming out.
I've seen him. I'm loving watching that journey.
Oh yeah, I love his content game. I mean,
Yeah.
I am his in-house
Yeah.
social media manager. Done for you content,
Right?
For Mataruda.
Yes.
But it
He
has.
doesn't know how good he has it.
Oh, I know, right?
He probably does.
I'm glad we're on this episode so he can hear that. But even being around some other couples in business together,
Yeah.
that I was like, well, they're doing it.
Exactly.
Look at him. He hates it, but he's doing it.
Yeah.
So I've actually loved watching that journey for him.
Yeah.
And it's really been, I understand what you're saying about like trying to have boundaries and let's go on date night and not talk about business. And we've actually talked about this many times since, because we actually love talking about our business and what our goals are and like big dreams. Okay, guys, are there any like roadblocks to it? How do we navigate that?
Yeah.
What are our wins? So even though at one point it was this hard boundary, then we're like, okay, well, screw the boundary. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's, finding that sweet spot. And again, different seasons will require different things. But I absolutely feel like it's something really special if it works for you to work with your partner, and not that it's for everyone.
For sure.
I always joke that like, don't ask Luke and I to build IKEA furniture together or to hang something on the wall together, but we can build a business together and parent together in a way that, creates such an equal partnership that lets us both thrive in different ways. And it's never 50-50, it's often like 10-90, 25-75, and just finding that flow and not keeping score and knowing each other's strengths, knowing how we communicate best, knowing each other's human design, even though like that's not a core belief of his, but he gets it and he knows that it plays a role. We're both actually sacral Manny-Gens. So that helps too, that we have a very similar like, hard yes kind of moment. We're quick decision makers. We're quick action takers. So that flows really well.
That's next for Mataruda. The human design and then the Enneagram. And we're in a mastermind with an Enneagram expert. Tracy O'Malley, she's like the GOAT. And so that is on the list.
Does he know his human design, or do you know his human design?
I don't know his.
Oh,
I'm a Manny-Gen.
Okay. I got to know what his is now.
Yeah, so we need to find out.
Yeah.
So that's not, once we master the social media growth,
Yeah.
then we're going to go more into the woo.
Fair.
And I do have him going to a pretty woo physiotherapist now with some energy reeling. So
that's cool.
It's baby steps.
Yeah, totally.
And I will take that win.
Absolutely.
Carly, this has just been the best.
So
having
fun.
you here. What are you excited about right now?
Ooh, yeah, I'm really letting myself be in this kind of new identity that feels very different for me, and like letting myself kind of explore in that and really step into owning my voice and my personal brand on a whole other level that I haven't before. And trusting my voice.
I love personal brands.
Right? And I think, again, as someone in marketing, I always like prioritize the client work and growing the client's business. And that is one lesson I learned the hard way early on, was that I needed to prioritize the business and, that brand first. And that's not actually working against our clients. It's a great thing. It helps us expand our impact even more. So I'm just really excited to be able to be stepping out and kind of supporting people in a different way, that filling a bit of a gap with the agency kind of done for you model that helps people truly step into the power of their story and embody that, favorite self and their brand in a whole new way.
I love that. It's so exciting. Okay, so where can everyone find you? Where can everyone get the book?
Yeah, so visit cominghomebook.com. You can find everything about the book there. And I'd love to connect on Instagram. I'm at It's Carly Ottaway. That's my favorite place. Send me a DM. It's always me answering my messages. I'd love to hear from you. That's the main place.
I love that. And of course, we will have everything linked in the show notes, so you guys can click the link to check out the book, pick up your copy, check out Carly, connect with her, and follow her journey of being her favorite self. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you took a few seconds and shared this on social media, sent it to a friend, or left a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I'm so grateful to have you part of mine.